Hello, I am your host, Chris Crossroads, and welcome to Fantasia Way, where we discuss the why behind the way we weave stories. Hello, travelers, welcome to Fantasia Way. In this episode, we will talk about oral storytelling. Oral storytelling is the oldest form of storytelling and has been maintained for millennia in cultures all around the world. However, its relevance in modern storytelling may appear rather forgotten thanks to the development of more preservable and consistent forms of storytelling like writing. However, oral storytelling has seen a resurgence in an unlikely place. So, through this episode, we will discuss what oral storytelling is, what makes oral storytelling so important, and finally, where we can find oral storytelling most often in the modern day. Let's begin with the first step. What is oral storytelling? Oral storytelling is a unique form of storytelling in that it is one that occurs in our daily lives, but we often fail to realize it. When we see our friends or family and are asked how the day has been, we participate in oral storytelling by informing them about what has happened, how it made us feel then, and how we feel in the moment about what happened in the past and what we have learned from it. It is the most natural form of storytelling, in contrast to the practiced precision of literature and writing. However, oral storytelling also differs from the performance arts of theater and film. In theater and film, much of the goal is to directly represent events as they happen and as characters within the story. However, in oral storytelling, the story is told from the third-person perspective, and, like literature, has more focus on descriptive immersion than direct dialogue or quotes by the people within the story. However, this does not remove the practice of the storyteller in creating believable imagery through gestures, voices, and tones, so as to more deeply immerse their listeners in the tale that is being spun. Parables in various religions are a classic example of oral storytelling. Many parables are passed down through oral storytelling in traditions from one teacher to another. Much of oral storytelling's purpose was in the realm of passing wisdom down to the next generation. Before writing, oral traditions were invented to carry on truths that might have been forgotten over time. These became a tradition all around the world, even outside of religious use. Most folklore has its beginning in oral traditions, before it became written down and canonized in textual forms. The power of oral storytelling is uniquely ancient in its nature. Even the nature of poetry began as oral storytelling, made to be spoken, not read. As George Louis Borges put it, poetry remembers that it was an oral art before it was a written art. The history of oral storytelling is a long one, yet its presence in our daily lives seems negligible. In the grand scheme of things, we rarely hear of people going out and performing an oral tradition, especially in the Western world. However, this does not detract from the value of oral storytelling. Now that we understand what oral storytelling is, we now need to figure out what makes oral storytelling unique as a medium. As previously mentioned, oral storytelling is the oldest form of storytelling, and one that has continued being taught and passed down around the world to this day. However, due to that, it may seem like a system of storytelling that has served its purpose in being understood and taught, since it is also the most natural method of storytelling. As I already mentioned, we perform a variation of oral storytelling whenever we tell someone how our day has gone or when we share stories around the dinner table. But just because it may seem natural, this does not mean that there is a depth still untapped in the realm of oral storytelling. This depth can be as shallow as merely knowing how to construct the story to be told orally, to practicing voices and hand motions. When people perform a presentation before an audience, they are also practicing the techniques necessary to perform oral storytelling, by using hand gestures that maintain attention, or encouraging imagination by practicing voices and onomatopoeia sounds to immerse the listener in the story itself, like a campfire story. Even to this day, campfire stories are told on family camping trips and at scout meetings. It is a practice that is maintained even if it is untrained in. John Eldridge puts it well when he says, "You get guys around a campfire, and they start telling their stories. That's the fellowship they want to be in. It's the natural state of storytelling, and it's one that should not be neglected easily." unique strength of oral storytelling lies in the directness of it and the relationship it develops between the storyteller and the listeners. The opportunity to sit in the presence of and listen to a storyteller is something that theater makes use of, but oral storytelling is founded on it. Because of this physical closeness, oral storytelling has the effect of creating additional emotional closeness, which inspires a deeper investment in the listener. This power of intimacy is found most strongly rooted in oral storytelling, and it is that power that makes it uniquely important in the modern day that has separated people by distance and medium. Because of this, the idea that oral storytelling is dying out or is no longer obviously used may seem to cause despair. However, there is no reason to feel the loss of oral storytelling as a modern medium, because not only is it not difficult to locate places where oral storytelling is still passed down, but it is even closer than you might think to our lives. So, how is oral storytelling being performed in the modern day? As previously mentioned, we use oral storytelling whenever we sit down and tell another person how our day or week has been. However, this is hardly considered storytelling in the sense of creating a narrative that has a beginning, middle, and end, and is closer to biographical storytelling. As for oral fiction, we have campfire stories for that, but these are only done by those who go out and place themselves out in nature. So, where do we find oral storytelling performed for those who reside indoors? The answer is rather surprising. Tabletop role-playing games. The communal storytelling system that defines these games is built upon developing a narrative with one overall storyteller who then calls forth others to share what they would like to add and adjust in the story. Of course, dice play a part in these systems as well, but the core foundation is that of oral storytelling among companions adding to the story. No different than telling a child a bedtime story made up off the top of your head. Storytelling has always been about passing down wisdom from one generation to the next, and this holds true even for tabletop role-playing games and bedtime stories. Many people experience changes in their lives depending on how invested they are in the stories they tell during tabletop role-playing games, often designing their characters off their own traits and experiencing their own flaws from the outside perspective, helping them to cope and grow out of bad habits, or to simply realize them and know how to improve. Bran Lee Mulligan, a famous tabletop role-player and game master, once experienced this himself when he recalled an event with a character he played, saying, "I remember when our wonderful and amazing friend Eric Ishii, SK in Misfits and Magic, was like, Evan doesn't think he is good unless he is useful. I make choices as characters to play them flawed. That wasn't one of them, you understand." The power of oral storytelling is still being passed down, but the border between storyteller and audience is being erased more and more for the opportunity to carry on the story and pass down the torch of oral storytelling to others. And, just like oral storytelling passing down the torch from one storyteller to the next, I hope I have passed down my knowledge to you. I hope you have gleaned some new wisdom about how oral storytelling is still relevant to the modern day, and why it still holds a special place in people's lives. While we may continue to grow distant from each other in a physical sense, our ability to tell stories directly to others has grown thanks to the creation of the internet, and this new technology is the gift to create a larger global campfire than was known before. Thank you for traveling with me on this episode of Fantasia Way. I hope you got as much enjoyment out of it as I did, and I would love for you to come back this way whenever you have any desire to understand more about storytelling and the different ways we as storytellers can use our imagination. Would you kindly like, comment, and subscribe so you can keep up with our travels through this world of imagination? And I'd love to see you again soon. You can find Fantasia Way on YouTube, and you can find me at Blue Sky at Chris Crossroads FW, or on Tumblr under the same name at Chris Crossroads FW. Thank you for listening.